Good morning. Today we'll talk about the digestive system. First, we'll see the parts of the digestive system. Then we'll talk about the processes take place in the digestive system. 4 processes take place in the digestive system. We'll see what are those. Then we'll talk about the peritoneum and peritoneal cavity. Then we'll talk about the individual parts of the digestive system. You know, uppermost structure is the mouth, right? So we'll talk about the mouth or oral cavity. Then we'll talk about other structures like esophagus, stomach, those parts. So, parts of the digestive system, we divide the digestive system into 2 parts. One is called GI tract or gastrointestinal tract. Gastrointestinal tract or GI tract, which is a long tube from the mouth to anus. It is a continuous tube, long tube. Then we have accessory organs or parts that include your gallbladder, liver, pancreas, teeth, tongue. So those organs belong to the accessory organs. Those are not the parts of the tube, outside of the tube, right? The tube is mouth to the anus. Now, the mouth is the first organ, right, or part. Then you have what? Pharynx. Then you have esophagus, long tube. Then you have what? The stomach. Then small intestine, large intestine. So I am repeating again. Mouth, which is also called oral cavity. Then next is what? Pharynx. Okay? Which is a common part for respiratory and digestive. You remember we talked about pharynx when we talked about the respiratory system. Then esophagus takes the food to the stomach. Okay? So after esophagus you have the stomach. Then small intestine, large intestine. Is it clear? Okay. Now you can see that it is a continuous tube, and in some places that tube gets narrow, some places wide. Now you tell me, esophagus is what? Narrow tube, right? Esophagus is a narrow tube. Then it suddenly gets what? Very wide to form the stomach. Stomach is wide, right? Then again narrow, that is small intestine, makes sense? Very long. Then gets wider again to form what? Large intestine, makes sense? So the tube changes the size.
So this is the GI tract?
This is the GI tract, yeah, it is the tube. Okay. Now, small intestine has 3 parts: duodenum, is the first and shortest part. Then jejunum is the second part, and ileum is the third or last part of the small intestine.
You said the duodenum is the smallest?
Smallest, is very short. Then we have large intestine. Large intestine, which has cecum, first part, ascending colon, descending colon, ascending, then transverse, then descending. Okay, so ascending, then transverse colon, then descending colon, then sigmoid colon, then rectum, anal canal, and anus. So these are the parts of your large intestine. Okay. So those are the organs of your respiratory system. Here you can see the picture. So oral cavity or mouth, then pharynx, then this is esophagus, a long tube that brings the food into the stomach. Here it is dilated wide, the tube. Then small intestine is here. Duodenum, jejunum, ileum. And then the large intestine. Cecum, ascending, transverse, descending colon, sigmoid colon, rectum, anal canal, and anus. Okay. And outside structures, accessory structures, pancreas, gallbladder, liver, you have tongue, teeth, also salivary glands. You can add that. Okay, salivary glands. Processes occur in the digestive system. 6 processes, I said 4 before, that's the respiratory. 6 processes take place in the digestive system. Ingestion, which is just putting the food in the mouth. Very simple, okay? You put, first thing what you do, you put the food in the mouth, right? So that is called ingestion. Then propulsion. Propulsion is the movement of the food through the GI tract. You know that food slowly goes down through the GI tract. Then digestion. Very simple. Digestion means breakdown of food. Digestion is what? Breakdown of food. Now, food breakdown occurs by 2 ways. One is called mechanical digestion by pressure, and another is chemical digestion by secretion. Now you tell me, when you put the food in your mouth, what you do?
Chew.
Chew. So by pressure, right? Using teeth, you do what? Chop the food, grind the food, right? Break the food by pressure. So that is mechanical. Make sense? Also, what happens? Secretion of saliva. So saliva also breaks the food. Make sense? So that is what? Chemical or mechanical? Chemical, secretion, right? So in the mouth, you see both mechanical breakdown and chemical breakdown or digestion, right? And then absorption. After digestion, the large food becomes fine molecules of food. Becomes what? Fine molecules of food. And those fine molecules of food are called nutrients. Have you heard nutrients? Yes. So nutrients are actually the fine food molecules. So digestion breaks the food again and again, right? And eventually the large food is, converted to fine food molecules. Those are called what? Nutrients. Is it clear? Then the nutrients are taken into the blood from the intestine. Taken into what? The blood from the intestine. Is it clear? And that process is called absorption. So nutrients are taken into the blood from the intestine, and that process is called what? Absorption. Is it clear? Can large food pieces enter into the blood from the intestine? No. That's why you need digestion, right? Break and convert the food into fine nutrients. Okay. Then blood can only take the nutrients. Then defecation. Defecation, those foodstuffs are not taken into the blood, not absorbed, will get out as feces. So that is called what? Defecation. The process by which unabsorbed foodstuffs are excreted out from the body. Is it clear? That is called what? That process is called defecation. So those are the processes take place in the digestive system. Now, the nutrients are taken into the blood, and blood from the small intestine or from the intestine, nutrients are taken to the liver. So blood takes the nutrients to the liver. Okay? And in the liver, the processing of nutrients take place. First processing of nutrients take place in the liver. That's why liver is very important. First processing of nutrients occur in the liver. So this picture is showing those processes. Ingestion, putting the food in the mouth. Propulsion, the food moves downwards. Digestion, breakdown, mechanical and chemical. And then absorption, nutrients are taken into the blood. And large fat molecules are taken into the lymphatic vessels. And then you remember lacteals. Have you heard lacteals? Okay, very good. So then unabsorbed foodstuffs get out from the body as feces. That is defecation. Peritoneum is the covering of your abdominal organs. Now you already know the covering of the heart is called what? Pericardium. Covering of the lung, peritoneum. Pleura. Right? Remember that? So pericardium, pleura, those are the coverings of your heart and lungs. Now your abdominal organs are covered by peritoneum. Okay? So peritoneum is also a double layered serous membrane. It is also a double layered serous membrane. Outer layer is called parietal, inner is called what? Visceral. You know that. So parietal is the outer one and visceral is the inner one. And the space between those two layers is called the peritoneal cavity, like the pericardial cavity or pleural cavity. This is called peritoneal cavity. So if I make a cross section, cut like this, the body, make a cross section and see, this is the body, abdomen, this is the abdominal wall, this is the wall, and the parietal peritoneum is the outer layer which is attached to the inner surface of the body wall. So this is the parietal layer, okay, parietal layer. And then what happens, you see here, from the parietal, it goes in like this. And this is, for example, your stomach, this is your liver. So what happens, the parietal gets in and covers the internal organs like this. And the layer that goes in and covers the internal organs like this, these are viscera. Okay, so now you see here, again I am repeating, this is the outer layer attached to the body wall, and then it goes in and becomes viscera and covers the internal organs like your stomach, liver, intestine, like this. So, and then goes back like this. So this is the parietal, this is the visceral layer, and in between you see there is a big cavity filled with fluid. That is the peritoneal fluid, and the cavity is called peritoneal cavity between these two layers. Make sense? Peritoneal cavity contains the fluid called the peritoneal fluid. Is it clear? Now, this fluid has same function as pericardial or pleural fluid. It reduces what? Friction. Okay. You have a number of abdominal organs, right? And if the fluid is not there, they will rub each other. Okay, and that will cause severe pain every time you move the body. Okay, they will rub each other, and that will cause pain. Dry surfaces will cause, more injury or inflammation if they rub each other. Because of that fluid, that friction is reduced. Okay, so very important because you have a number of organs here. Okay. Okay. So now those organs are located inside the peritoneum. Those are called intraperitoneal. For example, these organs are intraperitoneal, stomach, liver, intestine. But we have couple of organs, those are located outside of the peritoneum. For example, this is the back of the body. Kidneys. You have two kidneys. Very good. So those are outside of the parietal peritoneum. Those are called retroperitoneal. So intraperitoneal, inside the peritoneal cavity, and retroperitoneal is outside of the parietal peritoneum. So those are the organs. You see here now, this is the body wall, parietal, visceral, covering internal organs, right? Now, this part that is going inwards, this is called mesentery. Mesentery. Okay. This is the back of the body, as I have mentioned. So this is called dorsal mesentery, and this is called ventral mesentery. Okay. These both are called ventral mesentery. So those pores are going inwards, and like this, and this is another one, this is another one. This is dorsal back mesentery, and these are ventral mesentery. Okay. Now, what are the functions of mesentery? You see, mesentery comes out from the body wall and get attached to the organs. So they work like, ropes and tie the abdominal organs to the wall. Like tie the abdominal organs to the wall. Make sense? So the organs will hang like this in the abdominal cavity. Make sense? They can move a little bit, but not too much. Like if I tie you with rope to the wall, right? All of you, then you will be able to move a little bit, but you cannot move a lot, right? So exactly like that, inside the abdominal cavity, the organs are tied to the wall by the mesentery. They can move a little bit, but cannot really, go far. So that is important. Otherwise, what would have happened? All organs will go to the bottom, right? And will squish each other. That doesn't happen. They will stay in their locations. That is number one. To keep the organs in right locations in the abdominal cavity. Make sense? Number two, you see two layers, right? In between these two layers, you have passages. And through these passages, blood vessels and nerves from the body wall enter into the organs. So, passes for the blood vessels and the nerves. They must go to the organs, right? So, so those are a couple of important functions of mesentery. For the organs in right place, blood vessels, lymphatic vessels, nerve, pass through it. Okay? Retroperitoneal, interperitoneal. Most of the organs are interperitoneal. Few organs, like kidneys, are located outside. Those are retroperitoneal. Okay. Now, we will talk about the first organ, which is the mouth. The boundary of the mouth or oral cavity. Anteriorly, you all know you have the lips, right? You have the lips anteriorly and the cheeks. Cheeks form the lateral boundary. Make sense? Just think oral cavity. So anterior is lip, our lips. Cheeks are lateral boundaries, right? And then the roof is formed by the palate. If you move your tongue inside and move upwards, you will touch the palate. So roof is what? Palate. Make sense? And floor is the tongue. So that is the oral cavity, boundary of the oral cavity. Oral orifice is this opening through which you do ingestion, put the food inside, and your opening. Inner lining of the oral cavity is stratified squamous. You remember many times I mentioned those areas the chance of friction is high, stratified squamous, right? So inside the mouth, chance of friction is what? High. You put the food first inside the mouth, right? So you do a lot of chewing the food, so friction occurs, stratified squamous. So here you see the oral cavity, lips anterior, and this is the hard palate. Palate is the roof, and tongue is the floor. Okay? If you see inside the mouth or oral cavity, you will see a number of structures. You will see the uvula. If you ask the person to open the mouth, you can look through and see the uvula, the thing hanging like this. Okay? palatine tonsils, the side of the palate. You have teeth, you have the gingiva or gums, you have vestibule. Vestibule is the area between the lip and the gum. So this is vestibule, between lip and the gum. Okay? You will see the openings of the salivary ducts. So from the salivary gland, the saliva is released into the oral cavity or mouth through these openings of the ducts or tubes. Okay? So those are some structures that you will be see in the mouth. Palate. Palate is the roof of the oral cavity, and palate has two parts, soft palate and hard palate. Anterior part is hard, that is the bony part, and posterior part is soft. So it is like this. This is the front part and this is the back part. This part is hard palate because formed by bone, that's why it is hard, and this posterior part is soft palate. Now, hard palate is formed by two bones. Two bones together form the hard palate. Anterior 2/3, this part is formed by maxilla, and posterior 1/3, this part by palatine bone. Okay, so maxilla and palatine bones, these two bones, palatine bone, these two bones together form the hard palate, the bony part of the palate. You just think simple. This, which bone is this? Maxilla, right? So that will form the front part. And palatine bone, its name is palatine bone, right? So palatine bone will form the rest part, posterior part. Soft palate is skeletal muscle. Remember, people may think it is smooth, but not. It is skeletal muscle. Covered by a thick mucosa. It's very thick mucosa. So this is mucosa around the skeletal muscle. Mucosa. Okay. And the end part of soft palate, this free end is called uvula. So uvula is the free end of the soft palate, this part. That you can see through the oral cavity. So that is the palate. Tongue. Tongue is very interesting. Okay. Tongue, you can move the tongue in many different directions, right? And tongue helps you in different things, different functions. For example, tongue gives you the taste of food, right? Because taste receptors are in the tongue, tasting the food. Tongue helps you to mix the food with saliva. After salivary secretion, tongue helps to mix the food with saliva and help to form the bolus of the food. Tongue helps you to swallow the food, deglutition or swallowing of the food. Tongue helps you to produce what? Speech, right? You don't need A&P to learn that. Tongue helps you to produce what? Speech. Tongue helps you to taste the food. Everybody knows Okay. So those are the functions of the tongue. And tongue can move in many different directions. Now, tongue movement is controlled by two groups of muscles. One group is the intrinsic muscles, another group is the extrinsic muscles. Now this is the tongue. Okay. Inside the tongue, you have the muscles. This should be intrinsic or extrinsic? Inside. Intrinsic. So, inside the tongue, intrinsic muscles. Now, from the bones around the oral cavity, muscles come from outside bones from different directions, and these muscles get attached to the tongue. These are what? Extrinsic, coming from outside. Makes sense, right? So, those muscles are inside the tongue. Those are what? Intrinsic. And those are coming from the bones around and getting attached to the tongue. Those are extrinsic. Now, if this is your tongue, the muscles inside the tongue, intrinsic muscles, help you to do what? Change the shape of the tongue. Just think that if these muscles contract, tongue will get short, right? Relax, tongue will get long. Make sense? So changing the shape is done by what? Intrinsic muscles. Now, if you want to move the tongue, like upwards, downwards, or sideways, right? Which muscles help? Extrinsic. Like this is the muscle coming from above, extrinsic muscle. When this muscle will contract, what will happen? Tongue will move up. Make sense? When this muscle will contract, tongue will move down. So, extrinsic muscles help to move the tongue and changing the shape by the intrinsic muscles. Make sense, right? So, you're trying? Okay. Just practicing tongue movement. You know, you can retract the tongue, right? Make it short. Intrinsic. Okay. On the surface of the tongue, you have papilla, those tiny structures. You see tiny dot-like things? Those are called papilla. And there are 4 different types of papilla on the tongue. Filiform, fungiform, circumvallate, and foliate. Among these 4 papilla, only filiform papilla don't have taste buds or taste receptors. Other 3 papilla have taste receptors or taste buds inside the papilla.
Which one doesn't, you said?
Filiform doesn't have. Okay? Fungiform, circumvallate, foliate, they have taste receptors or taste buds. Their locations. Filiform and fungiform are very small and distributed throughout the anterior part of the tongue. So you see these tiny dots, filiform, some are filiform, some are fungiform. Circumvallate are only few and larger, located in the back part of the tongue, and they line up in a way that form inverted V or kind of U. So these are circumvallate. Not too many. Okay. Foliate papilla are like these folds in the back part of the tongue, but at the sides. So both sides of the tongue in the back part of the tongue, posterior part of the tongue. Those are foliate. So those are the papilla. Now, if I take one papilla and see inside, so I open the papilla, what I see, I see inside the papilla we have taste buds. So inside the papilla we have taste buds. This is one taste bud, and on the top part of taste bud you have a pore opening. This is called taste pore. You know, pore means opening. Now inside the taste bud you have taste receptors like this. This is the nucleus. So this is the taste receptor cell. You have different types of taste receptor cells. This is another. Okay, here on the top. At the apical end, you have here. This is another taste receptor cell. Draw more. This is another taste receptor cell here. So the receptor cells. Why you have different types of receptor cells?
They taste different things.
Taste different things. One, for example, is for sour. Another is for sweet. Another is for bitter. Okay? Another is for what else? We have salty or umami. Very good. Umami is a new type of taste. A Japanese scientist, it's no more new, it's many years ago, he mentioned that it's a taste that, you know, a little bit salty like protein. You know, when you eat the white part of egg, that's the taste, okay? Protein, taste of protein, umami. So very good. So we have different types of taste receptor cells for different tastes, right? Inside the taste bud. Now, these are the taste receptor cells. But where are the receptors? Receptors are attached to the hair. So what happens? The food gets mixed with saliva, right? And becomes liquid. And that liquid food stuff enters into the taste bud through the pore. That's why you have the pore. So liquid food stuff gets in, and the food molecules bind with the hair receptors here. And that gives you the taste. So that's why, you know, if the food is too dry, you don't taste it. Make sense? Salivary secretion is needed, right? To taste the food. If it is too dry, put it on the tongue, immediately you won't taste, right? Then salivary secretion occurs, then it gets mixed with saliva, gets into the taste bud, and gives you the taste of the food, okay? So you start to get the taste. So, now if I ask you, tell me from the large to small, tongue is the largest, right? And on the surface of the tongue you have many what? Papilla. These two things you can see from outside. And now inside the papilla you have taste bud. Inside the taste buds you have taste receptor cells.
And on the hair of the taste receptor.
Very good. On the hair of the taste receptor cells you have the receptors. Okay, so from large to the smallest. Okay, let's move forward. Salivary glands. 3 sets of salivary glands are present around the oral cavity: parotid, sublingual, submandibular. Parotid salivary glands you have seen in NP1, those who you took NP1 here. 2 parotid glands, salivary glands here, okay? Those are the largest salivary glands, parotid. Then you have submandibular, under the mandible here. And sublingual, lingual means what? Tongue, right? So under the tongue. So those are the salivary glands. And from the salivary glands, what happened? For example, this is your parotid, right? So the secretion is taken to the oral cavity by the duct, salivary duct. And that's why you saw the openings in the oral cavity, openings of the salivary ducts. So from the gland, ducts take the saliva to the mouth. And saliva performs a number of functions. Continuous salivary secretion occurs, right? And that cleans the mouth, cleansing the oral cavity. Saliva has chemicals that has bactericidal action, can kill bacteria, bactericidal action. Okay, so that is good, right? Saliva is being secreted and killing the bacteria, right? And keeping the mouth what? Clean. Number two, saliva has a chemical that is called mucin. That is sticky chemical. Okay, so that's why saliva is slightly but sticky, and that sticky mucin keep the food pieces together and help to form the bolus of the food. So the food pieces will stick together to form the bolus by the sticky mucin. I have already mentioned saliva dissolves the food molecules, and that helps you to taste the food because the food can get into the taste bud. So that is another function. And saliva has digestive enzymes that will break down the food. Chemical digestion. You remember I mentioned inside the mouth, both mechanical by pressure, right, as well as chemical by secretion of saliva, right? So saliva has digestive enzymes that help to break the food chemical. Now, which digestive enzymes the saliva has? Lipase, that is called lingual lipase, and amylase. Lipase is for what? To break the, anybody? Lipase is to break the, remember LL, lipids, fats. Or fats. Amylase, starch. Or carbohydrates. So carbs is starch by amylase. Remember, no protein is digested chemically in the mouth because saliva doesn't have
Acid.
saliva doesn't have protease. That is for the protein digestion. It has amylase, lipase, right? So we break the lipid and carbs, starch. Now if I ask you, what kind of mechanical digestion of food, what kind of food is mechanically digested in the mouth? Proteins, carbohydrates, fats, all. Because by pressure you break everything, right? By pressure you break everything. But chemical digestion, protein no. Lipids and carbohydrates in the mouth. Make sense? Then the food goes to the stomach, right? Where gastric secretion occurs. Gastric means what? Stomach. Gastric secretion will break the proteins, carbohydrates, fats part. Okay?
What did you say wasn't in the mouth?
Okay. Those are the salivary glands and their secretion. Now, composition of saliva. If you see the composition of saliva, saliva is highly watery secretion. 97 to 99.5% is water. So highly what? Watery. Other chemicals are present in a small amount. Electrolytes. Electrolytes are the chemicals that carry electrical charge, like positive or negative. So these are the electrolytes. Salivary amylase, lingual lipase, right? I mentioned here. So those two are chemically digest the carbs and lipids. Got it? Carbs and lipids, no protein. Mucin, yeah, did I mention mucin? Sticky, right? So that helps to form the food bolus. Small amount of metabolic wastes, urea, uric acid, are excreted through saliva, but small amount, right? Mostly through what? Urine.